Good morning. I was participating in a webinar last night on Ignatian spirituality. And this is a spirituality that is deeply rooted in the tradition of Ignatius of Loyola. And one of the things that he is famous for is encouraging us to pray with our whole selves, to pray with our eyes, to pray with our ears, all of our senses, sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of touch, imagination. And because I'm such a visual person, this style of prayer really works for me. It opens me up to God in a way that purely contemplating God in my brain doesn't work. In my brain, I can separate myself from the other half of my body, right? My physicality, which sometimes can be so distracting for us. Our bones ache, our eye itches, we're hearing a noisy or ringing or trash cans banging outside, or the sounds, the touches, the feels that our body experiences. We often feel like it's just not helping. In fact, it takes us away from complete concentration on the divine. Ignatius steps into this area where he pushes us and says, but what if your intellect is not the best avenue to access the divine? Right? God is a God of our heart. And often the heart and the head are at odds with one another. We process things in our head just on purpose so we won't feel them in our heart. Our heart is messy. It's that gray area that makes it really difficult to sort things out and to feel like we are controlling the experience. It's human. That's why we have Ignatius. And one of the things that I was paying attention to during this webinar was the fact that the experiences, the examples that this woman used in her presentation, if we do not open our entire self up to God during our prayer experience, how can we fully receive the gift and presence of the divine? If we allocate space in our head for God, then does that mean that God will only occupy our head? This was so profound, and it really got me thinking that do I relegate places in my life for God and not others? Our brains are often more acceptable to us than our bodies. Our brains can accomplish things in spite of our bodies, right? If we are injured or if we're tired, our brains can keep working. Whereas maybe if we pay attention to the aches and the pains that our bodies have, if we're paying attention, our brains often stop working if there's pain. Or they definitely work differently. So how do you pray with your body? Do you pray with your body? And if you don't pray with your body, do you see that perhaps there are experiences of the divine that cannot take place in the intellect, that cannot take place in the head? Even in the life of Jesus, there were many times where those who were objective and stood back and watched him in action picked apart his experiences and his behavior, saying, that's not right, and that's not right, and that doesn't conform, and you're obviously not who you say you are because you're doing X, Y, Z. Yet in the body, when the heart is able to respond, all of the divine can be encountered if we use all of ourselves in that experience. So explore that today. How is your body part of the picture? How is your body part of the encounter with the divine? Take a read on your senses before you go into prayer. where are my distractions right now? And can I set them aside and allow God to be present, fully present to me, if I am fully present back to God? Just something to think on. I mean, obviously, I've been mulling it over for the last 8-9 hours, and I'm sure I will for even longer. Invite your whole self into that encounter with God.